Hey everybody, this is Rykard here again, and welcome to my first Moveset guide for Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. Today we're going to be talking all about the final evolution of the grass starter, Torterra. So let's get started by taking a look at this Pokemon's typing, abilities, and stats. So to start things off, Torterra is a grass-ground type Pokemon, and it is to this day still the only Pokemon that possesses this unique typing. As for the abilities, though, this Pokemon gets Overgrow as its first ability, the standard Grass Starter ability, in that it will increase the power of your Grass-type moves by 50% when you fall to a third of your health or less. And its hidden ability is known as Shell Armor, which is a great defensive ability that makes it so that Torterra can never be hit by a critical attack from its opponents. As for its stats, Torterra possesses some really good bulk, with a base 95 HP stat, 105 defense stat, and 85 special defense stat. Offensively, though, it has a great base 109 physical attack, allowing it to deal a lot of damage with its strong physical moves like Wood Hammer and Earthquake, and it has a passable base 75 special attack, which is usable in some scenarios, but definitely not going to be the attack stat you go with if you're going to be trying to sweep your opponent's team. Finally, it has a base 56 speed stat, which is the biggest drawback of Torterra. It is very slow compared to many of the things that it's going to be up against, making it difficult to use sometimes because it's going to be outpaced by a lot of things that may or may not have some strong, super effective attacks against it. And just for reference, I figured I would include this here. Previously, in the Gen 4 metagame, Torterra was actually in the UU tier due to its good bulk and good typing offensively and defensively. And it'll be interesting to see where it lands in the new meta, especially this pre-Pokemon Home meta that we're currently dealing with right now, until next year when that gets released. So with that, let's go ahead and take a look at the first moveset that we can run on this Pokemon for this video. So in this first moveset, we're going to be running Torterra as a defensive support Pokemon, specifically a physically defensive support Pokemon. So we're going to start this one off by giving it either an Impish Nature to increase its physical defense but lower its special attack, or a Bold Nature to increase its physical defense but lower its physical attack. And I'll get a little bit into why that might be in a minute. As for its ability, though, we're going to be going with Shell Armor since this is a more defensive stat, so we're going to be wanting to make use of the fact that we cannot be critically hit as much as possible. And for the EVs on the set, we're going to be maxing our HP and physical defense with 252 EVs into those stats, and then putting the remainder 4 into its special defense. As to the moves on this set, we're going to be going with Stealth Rock, the all-important entry hazard that you always want to try to have in every battle up on your opponent's side of the field. And alongside this, we have actually two options for stab attacks with this Pokemon. We can either go the physical route with Seed Bomb and Earthquake as your grass and ground type stab, or you can go the special route with Giga Drain and Earth Power. And the reason for doing this is because a lot of the time your opponent might be running status moves and things like that, specifically burns, and if Torterra gets burned, Seed Bomb and Earthquake become significantly less useful, and having the added passive recovery from the special attack like Giga Drain, as well as the added ability to potentially lower the special defense of your opponent with Earth Power, can prove to be decent utility options. Additionally, these moves also hitting the special side of things tend to match up a little bit better against other common leads because of the fact that a lot of those common leads are also physically defensive like Torterra is in the set. But for the last move, we can either run Synthesis for some really good recovery. We could also run Leech Seed for some extra passive recovery that can be very useful in causing your opponent to possibly switch out if they don't want to keep the Leech Seed on them and wearing them down slowly as well. Or we could also run Roar here to give it an option to phase opponents out. But for the item on the set, we're going to be going with Leftovers for that added passive recovery at the end of every turn. Now, there is an additional way you can run this moveset if you don't want to run it physically defensive. You can very easily also just run it specially defensive. So to do that, all you would have to do is change the nature and the EVs a little bit. For the nature, you'd either go with Careful or Calm, depending on if you are a physical or a special attacker. And then for the EVs, we're going to max out its HP and its special defense this time, and putting the remainder 4 into its defense stat. But no matter which way you run it, Torterra will definitely prove to be an effective defensive wall, either physically or specially, for your opponent's team to make use of, and to also set up the hazards on your opponent's side of the field. Moving on to this next moveset, we're going to be using Torterra as a dual screener. Now, there are a lot of Pokemon that can do this, however, none of them have Torterra's typing, which makes it rather unique in this particular role on your team. But for the nature here, we're going to go with a Careful Nature to increase your special defense and lower your special attack, and go with the Shell Armor ability again. And this time, we're going to be running an EV spread of 252 HP EVs, 96 defense EVs, and 160 special defense EVs to give you an even defensive stat in both your physical and special stats, allowing you to take hits equally well from both sides, which is going to be augmented due to the screens that we're going to be setting up, which goes into the first two moves of the set, which are Light Screen and Reflect, to give us some really great defensive shielding against both physical and special attacks. And these are going to be enhanced through the Light Clay item to extend the turns those screens are up from 5 to 8, giving us some very long-lasting protection. Alongside this, we're going to be running a stab move, and generally Earthquake is the best option to go with here. You can go with Seed Bomb if you want, but I generally just believe Earthquake is the superior option more often than not. And then for the last move on the set, we can either run Recovery in the form of Synthesis, which is very effective for keeping yourself alive longer and allowing you to set up screens later in the battle if you need to, or you can just go with this as a complete support Pokemon and run Stealth Rock again here to allow Torterra to be your screen setter and your Stealth Rocker for your team. However, if you do use another Pokemon for that particular role, Synthesis is definitely the better option to go with here for that additional survivability that it gives Torterra throughout the battle. Moving on to the fourth moveset of this video, we're going to be incorporating a very effective Leech Seed strategy for Torterra to run to make it last for a very long time and also be quite frustrating to deal with. So we're going to start this one off with an Impish Nature and max defense EVs, just like on the first moveset. However, you can also run this specially defensive if you would like. I just think the physical variant is a little bit more effective. As for the moves, though, the first one we're going to be running is either Protect or Substitute as a way of shielding Torterra from damage it might be taking. Personally, because Torterra is very slow, I believe that Protect is the better option to go with here, because it's a little bit more guaranteed in terms of the damage you're going to get on your opponents, but Substitute can be very effective if you do outspeed something or force a switch. Alongside this, though, we're obviously going to be running Leech Seed since this is a Leech Seed set. And this is probably one of my favorite moves in the game because it turns your opponent's HP into your own passive recovery while slowly draining away their health in the process. Alongside this, we're going to be running a ground type move in the form of either Stab Earthquake, just because it's a great powerful option no matter how you run it. But we can also run Sand Tomb if you would like as well for an additional strategy that you can utilize that will also slowly chip away at your opponent's health while you protect stall for some turns of Sand Tomb damage at the end of a return as well. This is also really useful because it also traps your opponent, making it a lot easier to predict around depending on what your opponent gets trapped in the process, which makes this actually a really cool option to utilize as well. And if you're able to get both Sand Tomb and Leech Seed damage up on your opponent, they're going to be losing a ton of health at the end of every turn, which is amazing for you. As for the last move on the set, again, we can run Synthesis for some even greater recovery if you would like, or if you think that the passive recovery that you're getting from Leech Seeds and Protect through leftovers as your item is enough, you can obviously also always run Stealth Rock here to give Torterra that extra utility at setting up hazards on your opponent's side of the field. Moving on to some more offensive movesets for Torterra, this one is going to be a choiced attacking set. So we're going to start this one off by giving it either a Jolly Nature to boost its speed but lower its special attack, or an Adamant Nature to boost its physical attack but lower its special attack. And this time we are going to be going with the Overgrow ability for the added damage that we can get on our Wood Hammers when we fall to a third of our health or less. As for the EVs, there's actually two ways you can run this. You can either run it as a speedy offensive attacker with 252 attack EVs, 4 defense, and 252 speed EVs to max out your attack and speed, or you can run this as a bulky attacker by maxing out your attack and HP stat instead, allowing you a little bit more room to take hits. Now, probably there is a decent amount of speed investment that you could run on a more bulky offensive set anyway that you might want to consider, but generally going with these two options is a good effective way of making use of some added choiced attacking power that Torterra can bring to the table. So for those options, we have a Choice Band to increase our physical attack while locking us into a move, or a Choice Scarf to increase our speed while locking us into a move. Now, Torterra is still pretty slow even with a Choice Scarf, but it does give it just enough speed to edge out Pokemon that have a base 108 speed stat like Infernape, and possibly give your opponents a little bit of a surprise because nobody really expects Torterra to be fast out of the gate. But for the moves, Woodhammer and Earthquake are two main stab options, and these two attacks alongside Stone Edge give you incredible and amazing type coverage. Stone Edge also is particularly noteworthy because it allows you to hit Pokemon that generally threaten Torterra with a super effective rock type move, such as fire types, bug types, flying types, and ice types. As for the last move, though, we have a little bit of flexibility. Superpower can be very effective at dealing with a Pokemon like Blissey or Chansey because they're so bulky, and it can give you a really powerful, super effective fighting type move to use. However, Crunch and Heavy Slam can also be very useful for additional coverage, especially because of the fact that Torterra is actually very heavy. So Heavy Slam has a very good chance of being a very high base powered move against your opponents, and can be very useful when dealing with a Pokemon like Clefable, for example, if you would like to utilize it for that purpose. But no matter how you run this last move slot, the additional coverage that you get is incredible for allowing Torterra to become a very powerful threat against your opponent's team. Finally, for the last moveset of this video, I'm going to be showing off what is probably the most classic sweeping set for Torterra to run. So we're going to start this one off by giving it a Jolly Nature to boost its speed but lower its special attack, go with the Overgrow ability, and maximize your attack and speed stats here. And this, alongside our item, the Life Orb, which will increase the damage of our attacks at the cost of losing 10% of our health every time we damage our opponent, will allow Torterra to do insane amounts of damage against its opponent's team. Life Orb also has the added benefit of giving you recoil that could possibly put you into Overgrow range, allowing you to deal even more damage with your Grass-type moves, which is very cool. But for the moves on this set, the first one that we're going to run is either going to be Rock Polish to boost our speed 2 stages, or Swords Dance to boost our physical attacks 2 stages. Either way, you're going to be getting a very fast and or powerful sweeper that is going to be very difficult for your opponent to deal with, and making Torterra very, very useful at KOing opponents on your opponent's side of the field. As for the moves that we're going to be running alongside these, though, we're going to go with either Wood Hammer or Seed Bomb as our Grass Stab, and I'm including Seed Bomb here solely due to the fact that Wood Hammer recoil and Life Orb recoil can rack up very, very fast, causing you to KO yourself quicker than you might realize. And so running Seed Bomb can be an additional option. It's not as powerful, but it is less recoil, thus allowing you possibly the opportunity to live longer and get off another attack that you wouldn't without or with Wood Hammer. But Wood Hammer also does, again, have the added benefit of getting you into Overgrow range quicker potentially as well. Alongside this, though, Earthquake as your main ground type stab and Stone Edge as an amazing coverage option are definitely the ways to go, allowing this Pokemon some great options when attacking its opponents, either hitting them super effectively or for some really solid neutral damage. Now, you can also run this moveset with both Rock Polish and Swords Dance together if you want to forego either Wood Hammer, Earthquake, or Stone Edge, and that really just depends on the type coverage that you want with this Pokemon. But both of these moves in combination with each other allow Torterra to turn itself into an immensely powerful and fast attacker that is very difficult for your opponent to deal with. But no matter how you run it, Torterra definitely has a lot of potential as a boosting, sweeping attacker that can definitely Torterra-rise your opponent's team. See what I did there? But anyways, everybody, that is it for this video on Torterra. I'm hopefully going to be doing more of these for all of the Sinnoh Pokemon, and I have a little bit more time. My laptop is working, and I shouldn't have any issue doing that, provided something crazy happens. So I hope you can all look forward to this. It's been a lot of fun going through these movesets again and talking about them and making them and kind of throwing different ideas around. So I'm very happy to be doing this for you all, and I hope you all enjoyed it. So that is it for this video, and as always, take care, goodbye, and I will see you all next time.